Hello, I'm Sandra, a 42-year-old woman who has gone through a lot in life. Today, I want to share how I became a single mom when my kids were very young. I met my ex-husband, Harry, through mutual friends. We hit it off pretty well. He was everything I had ever dreamed of. Both of us had good jobs and were financially stable. Though I had no contact with my family, Harry's parents welcomed me with open arms. He checked all my boxes, so of course I said yes when he proposed after 3 years of dating. Harry was always open about his desire to start a family. I wasn't the biggest fan of having kids, but I wanted to make Harry happy, so I agreed. However, once my kids were born, I knew I had made the best decision of my life. Initially, Harry was an amazing father and husband. He took care of us, sometimes to the point of neglecting himself. I truly thought I had hit the jackpot with him. But then, out of the blue, a couple of years after we had both kids, things started going downhill. He had a new coworker join his team, and they began hanging out a lot. From the start, I did not like the look of his coworker. He seemed like a bad influence. My gut feeling was right because pretty soon, Harry was ignoring me and the kids. He would come home from work and lock himself in his room to play games. I tried talking to him repeatedly, but he never listened. We would have heated arguments when the kids weren't around. He complained about me pushing too many responsibilities on him and being a nag. The thing is, I wasn't asking him to go above and beyond. I just wanted him to do something, considering he was doing absolutely nothing at that moment. One day, Harry asked if he could take the kids to the park while I was at work. He had a day off and wanted to bond with them. I was filled with so much joy at the prospect of Harry returning to his old self that I readily agreed, not thinking about my kids skipping school. While I was at work, my father-in-law, Dave, called me. It wasn't unusual for him to call and check in, so I happily picked up, but he sounded upset. "Sandra, are you at work?" he asked. "Yeah, is everything all right? You sound upset," I replied. "Well, Maria and I were on our way back home from the grocery store when we saw the kids at the park." "Oh yeah, Harry said he'd be taking them there." They were alone. Lacey was crying, and Jax was trying his best to calm her down. "What? Oh my God, are they okay?" "Yeah, we picked them up, and they're sleeping right now." "Do you know where Harry is or how long they were there?" Jax said Harry had taken them to the park around 10 in the morning, and we picked them up around 12. Apparently, Harry had dropped them off at the park and just left. "That man is going to get a piece of my mind," I said, seething with anger. "If you manage to get through to him, let him know that his parents also want to have a stern word with him," Dave added. "You haven't been able to get through to him?" "Nope, his phone is switched off." "Okay, I'll try to get a hold of him too. Until then, I hope it won't be an issue to watch over the kids until I get back." "Of course not, honey. We'll make sure they eat when they wake up." "Thanks a lot. I don't know what I would do without you two." I managed to stay kind and grateful even though I was raging inside. Once I was off the phone with Dave, I immediately dialed Harry. Just like Dave said, Harry's phone was switched off. I don't know how I managed to get through the rest of my workday. I kept making phone calls to Harry, but never got a response. Once I was done with work, I decided to go home first. I hoped that Harry was just at home playing some games. I know it's pathetic, but I still hoped he had only left the kids in the park to play his stupid games. I called Dave and informed him about my plan, and he assured me it was all right. I didn't want my kids to see me getting angry at Harry if he was actually at home. Harry and I had been struggling for a while, but I didn't want my kids to think the toxic aspects of our relationship were normal. When I got back home, I immediately noticed something was different. The house felt emptier. I had a sinking feeling in my chest as I ran through the house, yelling for Harry, but he was nowhere to be found. With each room I checked, my panic grew. When I didn't see him, I went down to his den in the basement and saw it was completely cleared out. That's when I felt a full-blown panic attack coming on. Harry had an elaborate gaming setup, and I knew he wouldn't have moved it anywhere else in the house because we didn't have the space. I carefully walked up the stairs, feeling myself slowly losing my breath. When I got to our bedroom, I noticed all his clothes that had been piled in the corner of the room were gone. I went through his nightstand, and it was empty. Our shared wardrobe was also empty. The bathroom had been cleared of all his products. None of his things were there. He had left us. I was struggling to breathe. How was I supposed to raise 2 kids on my own? How would I survive on my income alone? If I had to pick up another job, I would have no time to spend with my kids. In my panic, I kept calling Harry. At that point, I didn't care about my dignity or ego. I was ready to beg Harry on my knees to come back. But of course, none of my calls went through, and my messages didn't either. I must have been blocked. With nothing else to do, I managed to calm myself down enough to make my way back to my car. I hoped Dave had been able to get a hold of Harry. My heart raced faster as I got closer to Dave and Maria's house. I knew I had to put on a brave face in front of the kids. My kids greeted me at the front door. I hugged them and did a quick once-over to check if they were okay. They looked happy and fine, and I felt a little relieved. They told me all about their day, and for a second, I forgot about my huge problem. Maria sensed my unease, so she had the kids leave the room to play in their playroom. She came back to the living room with a glass of water. Dave, Maria, and I sat on the couch and began to discuss everything that had happened. "Did you manage to talk to Harry?" Dave asked. "No, I don't know where he is, and I'm freaking out," I replied. "What's wrong?" "I went back home, and all his stuff is gone." "Gone? What do you mean gone?" "Gone as in there's no trace that he ever even lived in our home. All of his clothes, his toiletries, his gaming things, everything's just gone." "You think he left you?" "I hate that he's done this. I'm going to teach him a good lesson if he does come back." "That is not how I raised my son to behave," Dave said sternly. "Do you have any idea where he may be?" Maria asked. "Well, there are his friends' places and some of his usual haunts, but other than that, not really." "Okay, well, let's start by talking to his friends and then looking around the places he usually visits. If nothing turns up, we'll go to the police." I really did not want to get the police involved in this matter, so I tried calling everyone we knew. I even managed to find some of Harry's high school friends and asked if they had seen him around. Maria and Dave contacted their relatives and neighbors to find any information. We even went around the city looking for him. During this time, I had to juggle the kids and work. I was lucky enough to get a week off when I explained my situation to my boss. Dealing with my kids was a lot tougher. Every single day, they asked where their dad was, and I had no real answer to give them. I told them he was away on a business trip, and then they would ask when he'd be back. Thankfully, Dave and Maria had my back when it got too overwhelming to juggle everything. Eventually, we did get the police involved. However, they said they couldn't help because he left on his own accord, so he technically wasn't a missing person. Everything shattered at that moment. I didn't know how to proceed. Maria and Dave also seemed to be in a trance, just like I was. I felt so betrayed and abandoned. What happened to all of Harry and my promises? Our promise to stay together forever, to raise our kids to be great people, to go on a date every fourth Saturday of the month. I spent every night crying myself to sleep after that. I couldn't even face my kids because how could I tell them that their dad had run away from us and left us? Dave and Maria came over one night to check in on me. After I had put the kids to bed, I broke down crying in front of them. Before I knew it, the two of them were crying too. We just held each other for a little while until we stopped. "I'm sorry. I didn't mean to cry this way," I said. "There's every reason to cry. You've lost a husband, and we've lost our son." "We get what you feel," Dave said. "Yes, that's why we keep coming over." "I guess somewhere inside we feel guilty for his behavior," Maria added. "You have absolutely no reason to feel any guilt. He was the one who made the decision to abandon us, and he's responsible for it," I reassured them. "Yeah, but maybe it was the way we brought him up that made him this way," Dave said. "Nonsense. I know you brought him up well because you are here right now. You could have also left us alone since your son is not here, but you've chosen to be here to take care of us and help me out," I insisted. "You're right, we can never leave you guys. Your family," Dave said. "Precisely, Sandra. I want you to remember that we're family. We want to help you and the kids out in any way possible. Don't hesitate to ask us, okay?" Maria said. "Of course," I replied. After that, we slowly grew out of the hurt and misery. I somehow managed to break the news to my kids about their father's abandonment. They seemed to have an inkling that their father was never coming back because they were eerily calm about it. They only asked if their grandparents and I were going to leave them too. I assured them we would never leave, and for the first time, I didn't feel upset at Harry. Instead, I felt rage towards him. He had shown my kids what abandonment felt like, and now they were going to be cautious about it for a while. But my in-laws and I tried our hardest to do only the best for them and show them that we were never going anywhere. The kids continued to thrive, and I began to see them returning to their happy, bubbly selves. Around 5 years into Harry's disappearance, I stopped checking up on him. I had been religiously trying to contact him until then, but one day I realized just how long 5 years was. Harry had missed a lot of firsts with his kids, and they had all but forgotten about him. I didn't see any reason to want him back. 10 years after Harry left us, things were going well for us. Jax got into his dream college with a full ride, and Lacey was acing all her classes. I was earning enough for us to live more than comfortably. Maria and Dave were practically living with us because they were getting older, and we didn't want them to be on their own. They were struggling with their health, their bones hurt, and they had issues with their blood and sugar levels. I dreaded the thought of losing one of them. They had been my rock during the hardest times, and I wanted them to enjoy the good times with us. It took years for all of us to adjust to our new lives, and I wanted them to enjoy it to the fullest. It was no real surprise when Dave got very ill. Maria and I took turns staying at the hospital when Dave slipped into a coma. It was a hard time for all of us. For a long while, there was no laughter or smiles in our home. However, things changed when Dave finally woke up. Though he was still very weak and sick, he was alive. When we were told that despite being awake, he still didn't have much time left, the entire family spent time with him at the hospital. Dave made peace with the fact that he wasn't going to be around much longer. He uplifted the mood somehow, even though he was very weak. He insisted on having his lawyer come so he could rearrange his affairs and rewrite his will. When a lawyer was in the room, none of us were allowed in. "I'm sorry I couldn't let you guys in," Dave said weakly. "Oh dear, it's okay. Just get your rest," Maria replied. "I just wanted to surprise you guys." "That's awfully sweet of you to think about a surprise for us right now, Dave." "Of course, you know how much I love surprises." "We really don't want this surprise for a while, though, dear," Maria said gently. "At least this way, there will be something to look forward to. I just have one condition for you." "What is it?" I asked. "You have to stick to what's written in the will. Promise me that no matter what happens, my estate will remain divided the way I've arranged it." "Of course, dear. I promise everything will be as you wanted it to be." About 2 weeks after he woke up, Dave passed away in his sleep. I was a mess. He was like a father to me, the only man in my life who was there for me and helped me learn and grow. He was also a father figure to my kids and greatly helped me raise them. Maria and the kids were devastated too. We all lost someone very dear to our hearts. I took the initiative to handle all the paperwork and funeral services because I knew Maria didn't have the strength for it. The funeral took place 3 days after he passed away. A lot of people attended, and it felt good to see that Dave was loved by so many. At that moment, I did feel a pang of anger. I was sure that Harry must have found out that his dad had passed away. I even had Dave's obituary published in the newspaper, but he still never showed up for the funeral. Then again, if Harry did show up, I didn't know how I would have reacted. Perhaps it was better that only the people who truly loved and cared for Dave were there. The next few days after the funeral were spent grieving some more. During this time, we also got access to Dave's will. We were pleasantly surprised by it. Dave had divided his estate between the 4 of us, giving a lot more to the kids, which I was super grateful for because they needed it more than Maria and I. However, he had also left something for Harry, a letter. I was desperately wanting to open it and read it, but I knew it would be a violation of Dave's wishes as he had made it explicitly clear that only Harry was to read the letter. I wish I could say that I wasn't surprised when Harry showed up, but I really was. Thankfully, Jax had gone back to university and Lacey had been away at school when Harry appeared. When I saw his face, I was filled with rage. Maria felt the same. He looked barely alive, malnourished, with bones jutting out and eyes huge on his now small face. He had a lot of muscle before, but now his arms and legs looked like twigs. His voice was raspy and his eyes were bloodshot. I had a very strong feeling that he must have spent the last few years abusing substances.